Hi, I'm Michael Allison. I'm the Commercial Director at Roma Finance, and thanks for joining me for another edition of RomaTalks. Joining me today is our team leader of our flow team, James Edwards. Morning, James.
Good morning, Michael.
How are you? I think you've watched the first couple, you were really keen to come on and talk about a subject that you think is something that everybody needs to know about when it comes to certainly bridging finance at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So the talk today is going to be about legal solicitors, legal process, and challenges that borrowers may come across or things that they might need to consider when selecting their solicitors.
Yeah. So before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about you first. So you've been with Roma for about 3 years now, is it?
It's coming up to 4 years.
Right.
To 4
Okay.
years at Roma, and I've been in the specialist lending underwriting space now for over 7 years. Overall, I've been an underwriter for over a decade, and in the financial space since the age of 21.
Right. Okay. So just a few years experience.
About 10 years.
And at Roma, you lead our flow team. What does that mean for those people who might not know?
Certainly, yeah. So the flow process is something that we put together to make the submission to completion process a lot slicker. It's to help borrowers that are on a tight time scale get through to completion quicker without asking lots of needless questions. It's focusing on what's important to facilitate that speed, really.
Okay. And one of the big things that we have in that is obviously by using the title insurance and our bespoke legal instructions, we look to speed up that process through indemnifying. Like you say, actually just putting them across to the solicitor, these are the questions we need asking. But we still come up sometimes against a few problems, don't we, in the legal process?
Yeah, we do, of course, because Roma are a specialist lender. Not all solicitors are specialist conveyancers or professionals dealing with bridging finance. So they may not quite be used to what is required or what's not required, which is quite important. One of the points you touched on there was the use of title insurance. And this enables us to have a much quicker legal process on the basis that only the important information is reviewed by our solicitors. So what's key about that is that our borrower solicitors only provide information that's been requested. There's no need for all the searches from the local authority, highways, things like that can hold up an application. It is just basic info, and then we kind of go from there. The other things that solicitors can do with that as well is just be aware that could lead on to some more questions. So timing and getting things done quickly is quite important.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously pride ourselves on partnerships at Roma, and we're incredibly proud of the solicitors who are probably a bit more au fait and averse, or certainly are a lot more au fait and averse with title insurance, specialist lending, tight deadlines, development finance, refurbishment finance, all of the stuff that I think sometimes we almost take for granted that everybody knows about that, and the borrower may be up to speed with what they're getting into. But it's that solicitor who's working for them, isn't it? It's the solicitor that they're choosing. What questions do you think that borrower should be asking of the solicitor that they've chosen?
There's a couple of things you would need to consider with your solicitor. I mean, the main one is, have they had any experience with bridging lenders and the use of, where appropriate, title insurance? The other thing to consider as well is the requirements of the lender that you're approaching. Different lenders may have different criteria for who they can allow act for their borrowers. So at Roma, for example, we need legal firms to have a minimum of 2 SRA approved managers.
Okay.
And that's in order to satisfy title insurance. And you may find that other lenders are the same, or they may not have that criteria. But it's good to know before you instruct the firm of choice.
Yeah, I think what you tend to find sometimes is that people like a one-stop shop, don't they? So if they've got a solicitor who may have acted for them on their own home purchase, or even any other legal matters that they may go through, maybe even will writing or whatever it is, they tend to gravitate back to that solicitor. But like you say, bridging finance, and because of its speed of nature and because of the complexities sometimes and that may be around the property itself. It does require that different skill set for the person acting for the borrower, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's handy if they can be proactive as well. Because although we do request basic information to begin with, this may open a different line of questioning where more information may be gathered. So what we can often find that may delay a completion is where a borrower solicitor is only giving the initial questions towards the end of the process, not far from the deadline. That then may require further investigation, which would then undoubtedly delay completion. So if they have information to hand, it's best to give that as early as possible rather than waiting to the last minute.
I think with bridging finance, it's fair to say is that time is the biggest element of bridging. It's the best friend for the borrower when they need to get a transaction done quickly. Maybe they're buying it at a below market value if they can complete within a certain time, or they have a drop dead date of an exchange that needs to complete or a refinance that needs to happen. But also it can be the worst enemy once they draw down the funds. So at all stages, really, we're always focused as a lender on exit. But the borrower needs to think about that time journey from the point they apply for the loan, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing is, specialist lending, it's not straightforward, hence why it's specialist. We understand that the borrowers, the solicitors, and even ourselves will come across challenges from time to time. I think what needs to be more, the borrower could need to be more open with that in order to make sure that if they do come across a challenge, that we are aware of it and we can help them through that challenge and not see it as something to try and sweep under the rug, as it were, but let us know. And then there may be something that we've come across, we may be able to offer an alternative and work with them and their legal advisors to get a positive outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes how somebody deals with a challenge tells you a lot more about the person than how they're presenting what they believe to be the perfect application.
Yeah.
And having that, we always believe ourselves at Roma as a lender, we're actually becoming the majority business partner for that borrower on that transaction, because we're lending money to them to create wealth for them and their families through property, aren't we?
Yeah, and that's a big advocate of what we do, is we're there to create wealth through property for our borrowers. And the quicker we can do that, the quicker they can realise their dreams and move on to the next project.
Absolutely. So how have you found flow bridging over the course of the last few months? Have you seen an uptake in demand or anything?
Yeah, we're seeing quite an increase on the flow process, especially since we've moved into the light refurb space as well. So we're finding more and more, certainly on my team, getting more involved, which is great. We've recently seen a higher volume of cases that are looking to complete well within the usual 28-day guide that we kind of give. We're having cases completing within a couple of weeks, if not sooner. And the only way that we can do it at that speed is everyone singing from the same hymn sheet and having the same goal. And of course, we can't do that without the aid of everybody's solicitors, not just ours, not just the borrowers, but the vendors as well.
Absolutely, the vendors. You've got to think there's so many opportunities for the communication chain to fall down. We've got our completions team at Roma, and their job is to create that communication between our solicitor, borrower solicitor, underwriting, and the broker and or the introducer for the customer. But there are still those external factors, aren't they? So we need to make sure that the person who is the most informed at all times is our borrower, is our applicant, because at least then they have the right information to have the quality conversations that they need to get that positive outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So James, obviously we've invested a lot at Roma Finance at the moment in improvement in processes like Roma Flow and also improvements in technology as well. And we've got a really strong tech plan for the future. Are you seeing such things come around when you're dealing with lawyers, for instance, in the legal process to help that customer journey?
Yeah, I mean, in just the 4 years I've been at Roma, there's been a lot of changes and we've been quite flexible and pioneering in that space. A lot of people had to face and deal with the challenge of COVID. So what we're finding more and more is an uptake on using the technology that's already out there such as the ability to do video calls with their solicitors for their legal advice, for witnessing documents, for example. We're also finding we're getting more and more uptake with the DocuSign process, which of course, if people are out and about, mobile or even away, is helping really cut back on those timescales whilst we're waiting for wet signatures and documents to arrive. So yeah, it's growing and it's improving, and that process is just getting quicker and slicker.
Excellent. I think everyone's got an invested interest in speeding up that process, haven't they, to ultimately get to completion, where the borrower can then carry on and start to create that quality project that we're backing them to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll always look at other options, alternatives, and different ways of doing things to make it even quicker.
Absolutely. James, thank you very much for your time today, and thanks for joining us on Roma Talks. Thank you.